How's it going, folks? Please excuse the road noise. There's going to be a lot of it in this video. I was walking home from work and I had an idea to do something a little different. And again, all of my videos might be a little something different. But I was thinking of, talking to you guys on my way over. And so the first thing I wanted to get off my chest is to tell you all, sorry for not uploading for a little while. I actually lost my phone. I do most of my videos with my phone. So obviously that got in the way. Right now I'm using a little bit of a loaner phone a friend of mine gave me. They had a couple extra ones lying around, and I'm just using this one for now. Oh, it's a Samsung A10e. That's the one I'm using right now. My old one was one of the OnePluses. Anyway, so some of the stuff I want to talk about today as we're taking a walk here. And I'll actually turn it around this way. I hope you guys can still see, or can still hear me rather. So look, one of the recent things that's been going on is over the situation with communist China and Taiwan. So, as a lot of you know, Nancy Pelosi a while back went to visit in Taiwan, which is something that got, a mixed reception. And I think that had to do more with the fact that a lot of people really don't like Nancy Pelosi, rather than them disliking what she did. So her visit was, for whatever reason, taken in Beijing as a serious provocation, which is really interesting considering the fact that U.S. officials have visited Taiwan plenty of times, and it was never a big problem any of those other times. So I don't really see, first off, the outrage on the part of Beijing as being authentic. It's not authentic outrage. If it was, they would have raised alarm the last time something like this happened. But ultimately, what's going on with them is that in response, they started a number of military drills, some war games, where they practice their formations. They practice what it would be like to actually have a war starting, and they fire off a bunch of artillery into the sky. So these events have actually ceased. They're finished. They were scheduled to go, I think it was maybe from the 4th to the 8th or something like that, or somewhere around. It was to go on for a couple days early this month. However, what's happened is that the Communist Chinese soldiers, the Communist Chinese Army, People's Liberation Army, has not withdrawn from their position on the coast of Fujian across the water from Taiwan. So that mirrors very strongly what happened directly before the Ukrainian invasion. There were a number of drills done on the border, and then the troops were simply never withdrawn. And then one day, a week or two later, the attack is sounded. They sound attack. War's still going. Might talk about that a little bit in a second. But so, this interior turmoil in communist China is really the true reason why there's so much aggression against Taiwan happening right now. In China, they feel the need to have some kind of distraction, some kind of exterior purpose. And this is a common phenomenon. Whenever countries are in interior strife, they seek to attack. Or create an exterior enemy. So it's no question why right now, specifically right now, as opposed to several months ago, you see so much communist Chinese aggression and such a threatening posture towards Taiwan, because they're making up for what's going on inside of their country at the moment. And what's going on is a repeat of a 2008 crisis in the United States on steroids. Multiplied 10, 20-fold. Or maybe not 10, 20-fold, but at least several-fold. The Chinese property market currently is in complete collapse. Free fall. Housing prices are in free fall. New constructions are in free fall. Down double digits on the month. In communist China, two big factors involved in this. Two big factors. Despite the fact that they are a communist country, certain aspects of their economic policy, especially when it comes to entitlements, that is, payouts from the government to people, be that for welfare-related reasons, be that for disability, be that for retirement, what have you, aren't really present in communist China. They don't have a public dole. There is no EBT. There is no UBI. No disability. I think they might have some equivalent of a social security system, but it's very it's very small. If it exists at all, I'm not entirely sure. They don't have Medicare, Medicaid, albeit doctors, as with most countries in the world, like a trip to the doctor out of pocket, it's going to be a lot less than the U.S. But nonetheless, they don't have, they don't have any access to, or they don't have any help available with that sort of thing should you need it. The second factor is that in communist China, the average person or the average household actually has 80% of their wealth tied up in real estate. So the perception there has been for quite some years, as they have been a rapidly expanding economy and speculated by many to be soon to be the world's most powerful nation or world's most economically developed nation. The philosophy was that the housing prices simply couldn't go down, which is something that we've heard before many a time. Anytime when anyone thinks, oh, this security, the value of this, it can't go down. It's going to keep going up and keep going up. That's when you sell. That's when you know that things are a little overvalued, things are a little oversaturated. It was getting to the point where, it's already well gotten to the point where, the friends of mine in China I talk to, and this has been the case, since I've known them, the idea of them owning a home, anytime before maybe the age of 35 or 40. And I'm not even talking about an actual house. I mean, owning like a condo. Owning something equivalent to their apartments. The idea of them getting and being able to achieve that is laughable to them. It is. And so it had gotten to the point where people were actually buying, and I'm back now, I'm kind of done walking, but people were actually buying half-built homes. Now these half-built homes, of course, came at a lesser price, but they weren't ready to move into. So people would buy them thinking, okay, well, they're telling me they'll finish it within a deadline of 5 years. I'll be able to move in 5 years. Okay, I'm buying it now at a lower price. People were so afraid that if they wait, things are just going to go up and up and up and up in value. They figured that the best thing they could possibly do is to buy things as soon as possible and buy property as soon as possible. So you had all these people buying all these half-built homes. And one of the biggest sellers of this was a company called Evergrande that have since gone bankrupt for this reason. People eventually figured out that they weren't actually building the houses come, the time for for them to have their house ready. They weren't built. What was happening was Evergrande was getting the money from the sales of the pre-built houses or half-built houses. And then they were taking the money and then building more half-built houses, never finishing the half-built houses at all. Just moving on to the next batch of half-built houses. Think about that. Eventually, everybody figured out what was going on, and now no one at all is buying half-built houses. So their entire operation is done. It works like a pyramid. Pyramid scheme or Ponzi. It's a Ponzi scheme is really what it is. In order for them to keep it going, there has to be more people buying the low-priced houses. But their problems actually go beyond just specifically the housing market. And beyond how banks have interacted with the housing market. It is actually been the case where people trying to get their money out of ATMs in communist China cannot get their money out of ATMs. And this actually happened to a friend of mine. He went to his ATM for his bank, and what do you know? He wasn't able to get any money out. No, neither was anyone else. It turns out that a number of banks had a lot of their money tied up in real estate developments, such as these half-built houses or other similar projects that were actually of zero value. But there are some banks, and such as one that's called New Fortune Bank, which is, you may as well call it the Nouveau Rich Bank or Swag Money Bank or something, or Finally Rich Bank, Young Rich Bank. It's like New Fortune Bank. I don't know. I mean, do you guys see what I'm seeing from that? It's literally, we have a new fortune. Well, I'll tell you what their new fortune was. People would deposit their money into New Fortune Bank, and they keep the 10% required deposits in their pocket, in the bank for people to get their money out. And then any other money, the other 90%, instead of investing that in things, instead of loaning it out, I mean, even instead of investing it in garbage projects like half-built homes that are never intended to be completed, they weren't even doing any of that. They were just pocketing the money. They're keeping 10% on hand and pocketing 90%. I've never even heard of such a thing. I've never even considered such a simplistic bank scam. Genuinely, I'd never thought of that, of anyone ever even doing that, because it's so direct that you would never even think about it. You're not covering your tracks at all. You're nothing. It's the most direct possible bank scheme you can do. So that's what's happening inside of communist China, and the people are angry. They've had enough. I mean, they really have. At the end of the day, they know individually that any sort of resistance is suicide, but it seems that the collective anger of everybody not being able to get their money out of the ATM seems to actually, in certain cases, be overcoming that fear that's ingrained, and that's ingrained in them for good reason, by the way. No, I'm gonna cross the street over there and get myself some food. Yeah, man. The people are angry. They don't want to take it, but them not taking it, to not take it, it's a lot easier said than done to not take it anymore. Wait. They have a trained feeling of helplessness, trained feeling of apathy. You know, they're living in a totalitarian country, as they say, and that has an effect on your mind. You know, communist China it's not just a physical prison, it's a prison of the mind too. And ultimately, that's something people are going to have to break out of. But for sure, though, one way or another, whether this means the people will finally rebel and the communists will be defeated, I don't know. But the people are mad, and they are making a stink about it. And the leadership in Beijing is certainly worried. What ended up happening was people were going to protest the fact that they can't get their money out of the bank. And now they are protesting against the banks because one of the wise sort of things, I guess, that Xi Jinping specifically, but in general, communist Chinese government has been able to do is to make people associate the recent economic problems happening not with the government, not with communism, but with this sort of nouveau rich billionaires who've made their wealth in China off of the capitalist system or off of the market system by owning companies, by being entrepreneurs. They've done a great job in twisting public opinion against these individuals. Mind you, a lot of these individuals are not exactly the most teddy bearish of people. Don't get me wrong. A lot of these businessmen are ruthless. A lot of them are cold-hearted, and some of them are not unlike the types that ran factories back in the 1890s, employing children and the lot. So it was a smart thing they were able to do. So these people were protesting against the bank. Actually, they weren't actually protesting against the government, but the government is aware that one could easily turn into the other. What happened was a man in Zhengzhou City was walking, or sorry, he was trying to take the subway to the protest. And in order to get onto the subway in communist China, you need your health code, right? You need to indicate that you've taken your COVID test. And so he had gotten his COVID test. He had everything squared away. And so he gets to basically the subway station, and all of a sudden his code turns red, indicating that he doesn't have a valid COVID test that's up to date, meaning that he can't ride the public transit. So after this happened, he goes into quarantine, and he's in quarantine, which is supposed to last 7 days. Well, 2 days into quarantine, I'm just gonna sit here for now. I'm gonna get some food after I finish off this video in a couple minutes here. 2 days into the quarantine, his code goes back on as green, which was, sorry, not the best spot, bunch of cars driving through here. Which is interesting because, you know, that's not what normally happens. What normally happens is that he'll have to be in quarantine for 7 days. So, what happened is, and now I don't know actually if his test was marked as he had COVID or just didn't have a test, but either way, it was in such a way that he had to go to quarantine and could not go on the subway, let alone go to the protest. But so, based upon what happened, it was obvious to everybody, obvious to any reasonable person, that his COVID test, that his COVID clearance was tampered with in order to prevent him from going out to the civil demonstrations in Zhengzhou. So this, I mean, the whole entire public became quickly aware of this in China, and typically when things like that are revealed, the government will simply censor and delete the comments and just pretend it didn't happen. In this case, this indicates that they are genuinely concerned in Beijing about what's going on, and they're genuinely concerned about some sort of civil unrest. I don't know about a rebellion, but civil unrest. That they actually fired the officials who were responsible for the tampering. And now, I'm sure that these officials were told from one of their superiors, by one of their superiors, to go ahead and do this. I'm sure it wasn't them acting on their own devices. I'm sure it was let's be honest, guys. I mean, it was a policy that they had in. You know, I mean, do you think that it was just a couple guys who were running the COVID tests and just decided to do that? Or is that more likely to be part of a coordinated campaign to prevent people from getting to the protests, right? Nonetheless, they fired the 2 officials, and they know they're out of a job now. So what that was basically them trying to signal to the public that, yes, we hear you, we understand your concerns. You guys need to be treated, fairly. Like messing with your COVID stuff, that's unfair. And so the government basically walked that back. Essentially, they basically apologized for having done that without apologizing and without admitting that they did. Just holding two patsies responsible. So that about covers it for China. I was thinking about talking a little about the stuff in Ukraine. I think I might save that maybe for another video. Yeah, I'll save a longer update, but just in short, on sort of the European front of things, there's a major battle for the southern city of Kherson going on right now. Since the Russians have been doing their eastern offensive in the Donbass, which has been relatively successful, the Ukrainians have been doing a counteroffensive in the south. The objective of which, the primary objective, is the city of Kherson, but other objectives involved are, for example, the city of Nova Kakhovka, which lies just on the other side of the Dnieper River, in the Russian-occupied territory. And it's a little town, but it's super significant, and it's actually one of the first places the Russians occupying set up a new city council, like a Russian allied city council in this Nova Kakhovka, or New Kakhovka. And in New Kakhovka, that is where the start of this giant aqueduct that takes water across basically the rest of southern Ukraine from the Dnieper across southern Ukraine to Crimea. So in 2014, when the Russians annexed Crimea and made it part of the Russian Federation, Ukrainians blocked off this canal, blocking off the water supplies to Crimea. Its fields went dry. Let's put it this way. It became a much worse place after becoming part of Russia. Not necessarily one way or another because Russia or Ukraine is neither. Not because of either one being better than the other or running things better than the other. Just simply because their water supplies were cut off after that point. So that's actually was really one of their main objectives of the war, is to get water supplies for their territory in Crimea. So the Ukrainians are interested in retaking one of their major southern cities and taking this Nova Kakhovka to cut off water supply to Crimea. Furthermore, should they get into that sort of Kherson, Nova Kakhovka, sort of southern Ukraine area, and can set up a HIMARS system, or I don't know if it's a HIMARS, actually, I might be getting it mixed up, but they can set up some kind of rocket system and hit the bridge that connects mainland Russia with Crimea. That would be huge. That's the main way in which the Russians get their supplies to Crimea. tanks and troops move across that bridge. Supplies every day move across that bridge. Truckers. I'm not sure if the public road is open yet. It was planned to have a public road as well, but it's the primary connection between Crimea and the rest of Russia that was built after 2014, or it was planned. It was planned starting in 2014. And I don't think it was actually started until several years later, and it was only relatively recently completed in the last couple of years. So it's one of the largest undertakings in terms of engineering that the Russian Federation's gone on for quite a while. It's certainly one of their biggest projects and most important projects in recent years, and it is a golden target for a missile. Should the Ukrainians be successful in their attack, the Russians are moving troops from the east to the west or southwest to counter this. You've seen the Russian attack, and now it's time for the Ukrainian attack. We'll see how everybody does. Anyway, folks, I might talk a bit more about that in some more detail later. Anyway, signing off.